Merci, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, il me fait grand plaisir. It is my pleasure, on behalf of my colleagues on council, to be here on this cool, rainy morning to bring greetings and to welcome you to the beautiful convention center for FredX, an inspiring day, one that's going to have your mind working, and I just can't wait for this afternoon. Although this morning is going to be good as well, but I'm pumped to hear Ray. And I do have a Board of Governors meeting that I have to sneak away to at the university, and then I'm coming back for the duration this afternoon. Look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day and enjoy. Thank you, merci.
All right, we'll move right along then. So the format of the day is we have one of our main sponsors, CBC, our media sponsor. Turn that down. We'll be moderating the session, so you don't have to put up with amateurs like me up here. So why don't we introduce our first moderator for the day, and that would be the host of CBC Radio Morning, Terry Segay. Terry, hello. Come on out.
Nice to see you all this morning. Good turnout. I'm Terry Segay. I'm host of Information Morning on CBC Radio 1. That's the local radio show, CBC Radio Show here in Fredericton. Today I'll be introducing you to Scott Buffett, Cosmin Munteanu, and William Mciver, all of the National Research Council. I'll introduce them all at once. They will make their presentations, and then we're hoping that we'll get some questions from you in the audience. Scott Buffett is a research officer with the Internet Logic Group at NRC-IIT and an adjunct professor in the Faculty of Computer Science at the University of New Brunswick. After lecturing at UNB for 5 years, Scott joined NRC-IIT in 2002 as a visiting worker to conduct research on e-procurement decision models and strategies while working on his PhD from UNB. He then joined NRC-IIT in a full-time capacity in 2003 and completed his PhD in 2004. Scott's research interests include artificial intelligence, decision analysis, automated negotiation, preference elicitation, multi-agent systems, workflow analysis, and process mining. Cosmin Munteanu is a research officer at NRC-IIT, where he leads the Voice and Multimodal Lab and is part of the Mobile Human-Computer Interaction Lab. For over 12 years, he has conducted research aimed at improving humans' access to and interaction with information-rich media and technologies through natural language. Presently, Cosmin leads several research projects which explore speech and natural language interaction for mobile devices and mixed reality systems. William Mciver Jr. is a computer scientist. He is a senior research officer at the National Research Council Canada Institute for Information Technology. He is a member of the People-Centered Technologies Research Group, and he heads the e-Citizen Studio. Bill has research interests in community informatics, communication rights, and development design. He currently heads the Intelligent City Project, which is developing location-based services for public transportation and other aspects of communities. Bill is a graduate of Morehouse College and the University of Colorado at Boulder. He is a member of Computer Professionals for Social Responsibility and Engineers Without Borders Canada, and he was a participant in the World Summit on the Information Society. And we are starting with Scott Buffett.
Thank you. I'll just leave the morning. This is fantastic. What an event. So I'm here to talk to you today about some of the research that we've been working on at NRC. But before I actually get right into the research itself, I wanted to just give you kind of a little bit of a background on not only the idea behind the work as well, but kind of how the idea kind of came about, how it started and went through the process of coming into this kind of new technology that we've been working on. So I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. 10 years ago, in 2001, Tim Berners-Lee, who's the inventor of the World Wide Web, wrote a famous article in the magazine called Scientific American. And in that article, he discussed how one day we'll be able to use internet technology to be able to automate and offload a lot of our everyday tasks that people, humans, find maybe too complex or too tedious or too time-consuming to do. So one of the examples in that article was booking a doctor's appointment in such a way that it was convenient and to fit in with your daily schedule and so on like that. And so in that article, it discussed two emerging technologies that would be needed to enable this sort of thing. So one was the Semantic Web, which is a web of meaning, where things in the web can be understood by machines, as well as the relationships between those things and so on, as opposed to just a web of human-readable pages. And then the second was the use of personal agents, which are simply just kind of software that is able to understand excuse me, and utilize the semantic web in such a way to be able to automate these tasks and so on. So while these two technologies aren't quite mainstream today, there's been a lot of work going on in those two areas to kind of bring them closer to reality. So now I'll go forward another 5 years or so. An article by Infosys, which is a big IT consulting company that does a lot of forecasting and so on like that on where technology is heading. In that article, they predicted that these personal agents that I just mentioned will become to be more and more part of mainstream and part of our everyday lives starting basically now. So they said in 5 to 10 years, and this was 5 years ago. And not only that, in 10 years, we're going to see not just agents representing, single agents representing people and offloading tasks for them, but we're going to see technology where agents will be working together in like societies and so on to be able to accomplish tasks that are bigger and better and things that you wouldn't be able to do simply on their own. So we can almost see that, if you look at internet technology now, it very much kind of it's used as kind of a communication tool to connect us all, and we're able to talk through various different internet tools. But we can see that maybe in 10 years or so, we might almost kind of be connected by our agents kind of connecting with each other and doing things for us and so on. So, well, actually, I'll back up a little bit. In the article in 2001, at the time, inspired me to think a little bit about these agents that they talked about and to see exactly what can be done with those and how far we could go with them. And so in particular, at the time, I was looking at them to automate buying and selling on the internet, which was a pretty kind of hot topic back at the time as well. But I didn't want to just use the agents as a method of convenience, to just be able to offload a task. So I wasn't interested in just how a single agent could go and act in a static world and automatically buy something for me. But I wanted to look more at how a society of agents, so if everybody had agents that are buying and selling, exactly what could happen in a situation like that, where we'd be able to not just be able to do things more easily, but be able to do things that just wouldn't be possible to do on our own. Okay. So now this brings me to eBay. So if you're not familiar with eBay, it's a website where people, businesses, and so on can go to buy and sell things, typically through the use of auctions. So in 2001, eBay was really the state of the art in this sort of thing. And kind of remarkably, 10 years later, it's still relevant. And what's kind of really amazing about that is that eBay is really incredibly inefficient way to buy and sell on the internet. So I'm not saying it's not useful. A lot of people use it, and it's really the best that we've got right now. But it's a really bad way to be able to buy, for example, because you can't have access to the entire market. So when you buy on eBay, you do a search for what it is that you're looking for. You find an auction. You participate in that auction over time, however time is needed and so on, and then either you win it or you lose it. You're not able to explore everything. And so kind of in the world that I was envisioning, You would just be able to tell the agent what it is you were looking for, the kinds of things you were looking for, and the agent would then go out on your behalf and explore the entire market. So not just one person that's selling it, but to be able to communicate, negotiate with all of the different possibilities that are out there. Okay, so that's kind of the background in the history. So we'll come to the present now. So this brings me to OmniBid. So this is the technology that we've been working on. So OmniBid provides an agent-based electronic marketplace for automating the negotiation of sales of goods and services. So what does that mean? So agents, so kind of like what I've talked about to this point, essentially just software designed to autonomously or automatically act on your behalf to do things, to interact with other agents, to behave rationally, and so on. So to act normally, how you would expect them to act. So if you had an agent that was buying something for you, you would expect that agent to buy something that you liked for a low price, and so on. If you're selling something, a high price, that kind of thing. An electronic marketplace, very much kind of what you might think it might be. So a marketplace that is set on a computer or a number of computers, where the agents can then find each other, connect, establish communications, and so on. And so when I talk about this many-to-many negotiation, I'm talking about the agents have the ability to negotiate with perhaps a large number of other agents at the same time. And so when I talk about negotiations, I'm talking about simply like just making an offer to buy something. I'll buy that for $40 or so on. And so then you can have counter offers and so on like that, and you're able to maybe reject an offer or hopefully ultimately accept an offer. So that's kind of what the system does. So how can we get agents to do the things we want to? How do we get them to negotiate properly and be able to do things that we as humans perhaps can't do? Because humans are very good negotiators. I'm missing the top part of that, I guess you can see it. By nature, humans are good negotiators. In this part of the world for sure, but particularly in other parts of the world where negotiation is a very regular part of everyday life. So, some people can sell anything. Some will take a hard line and never back down, while others can be perhaps seemingly quite accommodating and softer negotiators, but in the end always get what they want. Now, computers, on the other hand, have their very own style of negotiation, which may be better or worse. So they're very precise, of course, for one thing, and there's no emotion involved, right? You can't convince another agent of something or intimidate an agent into taking your offer or anything like that. Or at least I've never been able to figure out how to intimidate an agent like that. So, but there are advantages that agents have over people in negotiation. For one thing is just being a computer, the computational power allows you to explore so many more possibilities, possible outcomes. And so rather than simply just getting fixated on price, the computer may be able to explore a number of other possibilities that could sweeten the deal without necessarily compromising on the price, for example. So that's one. But even better is because of kind of the connectivity, the agents have the ability to negotiate with many other negotiators at the same time, right, as I mentioned. So this not only gives you, even more possibilities, opens up more chances to get something good, but you can also use it kind of as leverage as well. Right? And leverage is kind of the great equalizer in the whole thing, right? So if you have already a pretty good deal, or what you can make someone believe is a pretty good deal, then you can use that to get the other people you're negotiating with to kind of sweeten the pot, let's say. And so you're not going to, even if you're not that great of a negotiator, you're not going to back down on an inferior offer if you already know that you have something that's pretty good on the table. And so all of this kind of, this adds to the fairness, essentially. And so when you have kind of fair exchanges going on, that leads to more trade, in addition, excuse me, to having the ability to have more trade because you're able to explore more options and so on. And so you can see that there are then a number of possible, potential great advantages to being able to do this on top of just the convenience factor of having the agent do something that you don't really want to do or have the time to do. So that's kind of the idea behind OmniBid system. So how exactly do you work with this? What do you do? Well, essentially, what we have built a web interface for it. So You go into the OmniBid system, tell the system a little bit about what it is that you would like, what the items are that you're interested in, how much you're willing to pay, and so on, like that. And then once all the information is there, the agent is dispatched to this electronic market that I mentioned, where it will find all these other agents that are buying and selling. And so it'll find the ones that it's interested in, the ones that are selling all of the different items, and essentially use, like I mentioned before, the progress of one negotiation to use that to strategize on how it will react with the other negotiations, while at the same time knowing that the negotiators that it's dealing with are also doing the same thing, right? So the sellers it's dealing with, they're also dealing with a number of buyers and so on. And so now we have the knowledge that not only can we use this seller as leverage to help us negotiate and so on, but we may also be being used by them and so on. And so we need to, when we're doing the forecasting of what we think will happen and what to do next, we have to kind of think of all these things. And so that's essentially what the system does to, in the end, determine what is the most optimal strategy for how I should send offers to the other guys and what I should accept and so on. And so finally, when an agent gets an offer that it deems as acceptable and doesn't think it can do any better than that, he'll accept it and we have an agreement. That's kind of how it works. I'll show you what it looks like. So here we have just kind of the initial search screen. So here's your buyer search. So we have an example buyer here that's looking for a healthy eating cookbook. So you can enter the search terms. You can enter the category as well. So books, subcategory, cookbooks, and so on. Then it'll go off and do the search. And so it'll come back with perhaps a number of different results here. And so we see there's a couple of clean eating books and another eat, drink, be healthy book. There might be a whole bunch of them. And so you find what you're looking for, but you don't have to just pick one. You can pick all of them. You can pick everything that you're interested in. And so, for example, there may be a whole bunch of this clean eating book being offered. It's the same book, but 20 different people are selling it. You don't really care which one you buy. I'll take any one of them. So you can take all of those, and you can choose to rank them all as your number one. And so that's kind of the idea, is you tell the system that these are all the things that I'm interested in. Buy one of these. These are my favorite things that you just showed me. But then I can also maybe pick some other ones. So I might also be kind of interested in this Eat, Drink, Be Healthy book, but it's not quite as good. So I could rank that lower, let's say, and that would tell the agent that, yes, I'm interested in it, but don't pay as much for it. And we can see kind of some other things we have here as well, a little description of each item, the quantity, so you could have multiple quantities. The starting price, of course, which is not the price you're going to pay, right? You're going to negotiate for this, but that's kind of what they're starting with. And of course, you don't know exactly how low they're willing to go and everything like in a typical negotiation, but that's what they'll start with. And the date, so how long it's been available and so on. So after you've made your selections of what it is that you're interested in, then the agent needs a little bit more information about your parameters on pricing and so on. So what is the most that I would be willing to pay for this book? $60. Also things like the quantity you're looking for, an optimistic price. So what is a reasonable price that optimistically, I think that I could get? So maybe I think I can get this for as low as 40. This gives the agent a little bit of extra information that it can use in its negotiations. And so it's just kind of a guess, though, really. Other things like the deadline. So maybe we want this book a couple of days before Christmas, let's say. And then a negotiation strategy that you would like the agent to use, where a high-risk strategy is going to tell the agent to kind of take a hard line in the negotiations. Try to get the best price that you can get at the expense of possibly not buying anything at all. Whereas the lower-risk strategy, you're going to be more likely to get a price that's not that good, but also more likely to get something rather than nothing. So you can kind of slide somewhere in that range as well. So that gives the agent all the information it needs. So then it's, as I mentioned, it goes off to the marketplace where we can then monitor the negotiations in real time. And so these numbers seem to be a little bit small, but I'll point out a couple of things. So this is just a screenshot, so this doesn't actually change, but in practice you would see it constantly in flux. So we have, let's see, we're in 4 different negotiations here for this particular book. And so here are just our sellers, their IDs. For each negotiation, we can see the last offer that our agent has sent and the last offer that we've received from the seller. So we kind of see the range we're in. And then we give a couple more statistics on the expected price. So the amount that we would expect the ultimate agreement to be, given that there is an agreement, and also a likelihood of how, what's the probability we're going to get an agreement from each of these. So it looks like P4 is looking pretty good. He's come down pretty far, and probably for that reason, we think that we have a pretty high probability of dealing with P4. So that goes on until finally a deal is made, and then we're notified. So we'd be notified through this interface. You could set it up so you're sent an email or however you want. And so, so we ended up buying from P2 actually for $56. So P2, turns out he accepted our last offer. So we did great. We got it for $56. So that's the idea of OmniBid. Number of different research areas go into this work, which I won't tell you all about, but just to bring you through it. Artificial intelligence is kind of the broad category that this falls under. Kind of the two more specific categories are multi-agent systems and automated negotiation. There's also decision theory involved, which is the theory of making decisions when you may have uncertainty in the consequences of those choices, and there might be further choices to make as a consequence, and so on. And game theory as well, which is kind of the study of strategies like you would see actually in games like chess and so on, of building strategies with the knowledge that you have an opponent that you're playing against that is also strategizing against you, and so on. So of course that comes into play as well when you're doing negotiation. So if you're a student and you're thinking that this kind of stuff is kind of interesting, but you don't really know a whole lot about these different areas, then that's what university is all about. So you don't need to know all these things to start off. Just come in with an open mind. And so plug for the computer science faculty here at UNB. You can learn a lot about these kinds of things and so many more topics as well. So that kind of brings me to a close. So I hope I was able to kind of not only talk a little bit about our technology, but to give you kind of an idea of how an idea kind of can start off and go through the whole process to eventually turning into a technology. And like you don't have to be the smartest person out there to come up with something new. There's lots of smart people out there, but you just need to do something different. So sometimes just by kind of being inspired in a different way or looking at a problem in a different way can help you come up with something unique. And so, let the people that pay millions of dollars for your technology decide who's smartest. Thank you very much.